the pilot who refused to abandon a plane full of rescue dogs. This pilot is a true hero. A small plane was in the air when it lost power. The pilot had to make a choice that day. Could either abandon the plane or go down with it. But this pilot did something that no one expected. He saved all 20 dogs that were on board. This amazing story happened in Wisconsin in 2011. A man named Barry White was piloting a single-engine plane that day. He was taking 20 beagles from a research laboratory in Virginia to a shelter in Wisconsin. The dogs were being moved so that they could be adopted by new families. But the journey would not be easy. When the plane reached its destination, it started to rain heavily. Barry decided to make an emergency landing. Unfortunately, the weather conditions were just too bad. The heavy rain made it impossible to land safely. Barry had to keep the plane in the air until the weather cleared up. Barry knew that he couldn't keep the plane in the air forever, so he started looking for somewhere to land. That's when he spotted a lake in the distance. He hoped that he would be able to make the landing there, but when he got closer, he realized that there were trees surrounding the lake. He knew that if he tried to land the plane in the lake, he might hit some of the trees. If that happened, the dogs would be in serious danger. So he decided to do something crazy. Barry put the plane into a spin and managed to gain some altitude. Then he flew the plane over the trees and landed it safely in the middle of the lake. The dogs were fine, but Barry had to swim to shore to get help. A local resident saw what had happened and called the police. When the police arrived at the scene, they were amazed by what they saw. The plane had landed safely, and all 20 dogs were still alive. Barry had put his life on the line to save those dogs. And because of his actions, all 20 dogs were able to find their forever homes. After hearing about this amazing story, people started calling Barry a hero. But Barry didn't see himself as a hero. He had simply done what he had to do. However, the people of Wisconsin wanted to do something special to honor Barry. They decided to rename the animal shelter after him. From that day forward, the shelter was known as the Barely White Beagle Haven. It was a fitting tribute to the pilot who had risked his life to save these dogs. And now, thanks to Barry, the dogs can live happy and healthy lives. Some of you might think that Barry was crazy to take such a big risk. But in reality, he was just a kind man who didn't want to give up on saving the dogs. He could have easily abandoned the plane and left the dogs to their fate, but he didn't. He stayed with them until the very end and made sure that they all survived. That's why we think that Barry is a true hero. Now we'd like to ask you a question. What would you have done in Barry's situation? Would you have abandoned the plane, or would you have tried to land it safely? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you think that Barry is a hero, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if you want to learn more about amazing stories like this one, stay tuned. From small engine to miraculous landing. When the plane started losing altitude, Barry knew that he had to act fast. But even in that moment of panic, he remained calm and focused. His quick thinking allowed him to gain some extra altitude and eventually land the plane safely in the lake. But it wasn't just Barry's skills that saved the day. It was also his compassion for the dogs. If he had abandoned the plane, the dogs would have likely been killed. But because he stayed with them, all 20 dogs were able to survive. After the incident, Barry said that he never considered abandoning the dogs. He knew that if he had to ditch the plane, he would have done whatever it took to make sure that they were okay. And that's not all. When the plane finally landed in the lake, Barry had to swim to shore to get help. Despite being soaked in cold water and worried about the dogs, he still knew that he had to take action. That's why we think that Barry is a true hero. Even when things looked bleakest, he never gave up hope. Instead, he kept fighting to save the dogs and ultimately succeeded. But this story has a happy ending. All 20 dogs were successfully rescued and found loving homes. Thanks to Barry's heroic actions, the dogs were able to avoid a terrible fate and start new lives. One of the dogs, a female beagle named Lucy, became the official mascot of the Humane Society of the United States. She traveled around the country, raising awareness about animal welfare and inspiring people to adopt rescue animals. We think that's a fitting legacy for a dog who survived the crash and went on to help other animals. A true hero. When the plane started losing altitude, Barry knew that he had to act fast. But even in that moment of panic, he remained calm and focused. His quick thinking allowed him to gain some extra altitude and eventually land the plane safely in the lake. But it wasn't just Barry's skills that saved the day. It was also his compassion for the dogs. If he had abandoned the plane, the dogs would have likely been killed. But because he stayed with them, all 20 dogs were able to survive. After the incident, Barry said that he never considered abandoning the dogs. He knew that if he had to ditch the plane, he would have done whatever it took to make sure that they were okay. That's not all. When the plane finally landed in the lake, Barry had to swim to shore to get help. Despite being soaked in cold water and worried about the dogs, he still knew that he had to take action. That's why we think that Barry is a true hero. Even when things looked bleakest, he never gave up hope. Instead, he kept fighting to save the dogs and ultimately succeeded. But it wasn't just Barry's actions that were heroic. People of Wisconsin also played a part in saving the dogs. When the police arrived at the scene, they were amazed by what they saw. The plane had landed safely, and all 20 dogs were still alive. They immediately began working to get the dogs out of the plane into safety. And when the news of the crash and rescue spread, people from all over the state came together to help. For example, local veterinarians offered to treat the dogs for free, and animal welfare organizations donated food, supplies, and money to help care for the dogs. In the end, all 20 dogs were successfully rescued and found loving homes. Thanks to Barry's heroic actions and the support of the community, the dogs were able to avoid a terrible fate and start new lives. We think that's a happy ending, a life of service. After the crash, Barry continued to fly planes and transport dogs to their forever homes. He was passionate about animal welfare and dedicated his life to helping dogs in need. He worked with various animal welfare organizations, including the Humane Society of the United States and the ASPCA, to transport dogs from overcrowded shelters to foster homes where they could receive the care and attention they needed. In addition to his work transporting dogs, Barry also volunteered his time at animal shelters. He helped walk, groom, and socialize the dogs so that they would be more likely to be adopted. He believed that every dog deserved a chance at a happy life, and he worked tirelessly to make that happen. Throughout his life, Barry received numerous awards and accolades for his work with animal welfare organizations. But he was most proud of the impact he had on the individual dogs he helped. He knew that he was making a difference in their lives, and that was all the reward he needed. When Barry passed away in 2018, he left behind a legacy of kindness and compassion. His family and friends remember him as a man who was always willing to lend a helping hand, especially when it came to animals. We think that's a wonderful legacy to leave behind. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We also encourage you to subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on any of our future videos.